Thanks so much for joining me, Adam. I usually like to start these conversations talking about an individual's journey and how they go down the path of really starting something that, will hopefully impact people's lives. And I think business is a powerful force for that. I think many people are starting to look at ways that, businesses that they're either in or businesses that they want to start, how can we have a social impact around this, right? How can we craft what we're building as a business to really impact a person's life or a community's life or a country's life, right? There's so many different elements that go into impacting a life. So talk about Brixilated, talk about the decision to sort of leave your job and go do this, and then the mission of the company and brand itself.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. I really appreciate the opportunity to come on and tell you a little bit about our story and what we're trying to do. The pathway is definitely not has not been linear by any means. Maybe I'll just a quick little introduction. My name's Adam Mullins. I'm the founder of Brixilated. We are an early stage social enterprise whose mission is to make lives better with Lego. A little bit about our story in the background. We have been creating products and services and experiences since 2012, 2013, mostly as a side hustle. We came in and started doing and focusing and prioritizing on mosaics and group build activities. So in terms of from a social enterprise perspective, our goal is to really put products and experiences out that make people happy, that improve lives, that make people smile. And that in its own right has been very reinforcing. The struggles that we've had, largely come and are derived from the fact that I don't have a business background. So I didn't go to school, didn't get an MBA. So a lot of what we're doing and what we're learning have been essentially, it's been hit or miss, learning from our partners and learning from our advocates and just getting a lot of information about what's available and what's accessible. At the heart of it, when we started the business and formally started the business in 2018, we knew immediately that we wanted to be a force, use the business as a force for good. So what that meant for us is going out and doing research around the types of ways and strategies that organizations use their business to impact lives. So
Hmm.
that started from talking about the questions around how do you set up and the organization? Are you a nonprofit? Are you a for-profit? Are you a B corporation or somewhere in between? So we went out and
Right.
spoke with individuals in the community to try to get a steer of and a starting place of what does the community really need? What does the greater Dayton, Cincinnati, Columbus area need from a business perspective? And overwhelmingly what we were hearing was that there was not a need for additional 501c3s in the
Right.
area. There's a
Yeah.
need for organizations to come in and build a business that can sustain jobs, that can provide opportunities for gainful employment, and to really stabilize certain parts of the community. So we knew right away that we were going to play in that space and be a social enterprise and aspire to doing as much good as we could for the community and the individuals that live within it. Our question has always been how. We are a
Sure.
solutions focused organization that we joke that is basically a yes company. A lot of our partners, a lot of our clients and customers, they come to us with ideas, and it's our job to really help create a great product or great experience based off of their needs and their specs that helps their clients, their constituents, or their consumers. So oftentimes for us, it's really navigating that uncertainty of what we do and try to do as much good and put as much positivity out in the world as possible.
And before we started recording, one of the fascinating things that you had spoken about, and it's definitely a tough subject and can be a little difficult to talk about, but the opioid epidemic you had referenced had really hit Dayton, Ohio, pretty bad over the last years, let's say probably last decade, maybe 5 to 10 years, something like that. Tell us a little bit about the project that you're going into now that looks at how can we use creativity and building with Legos, right, as a force to build a person back up, right, from maybe their darkest point. Talk a little bit about that project, and I believe it's with the University of Dayton. Is that where it's going to be kind of held?
It's funded out of a new cutting edge treatment facility in Dayton, Ohio called 115, which is Google or their parent company Verily funded. And if I take a step back, and
Sure.
talk a little bit about the business, and when I'm thinking about how do we provide as big of an impact as we can with the products and services and the business that as we're creating, for us, for me at least, being from the Dayton area, went to high school there, graduated college from there, I'm always, and like many others in the Dayton area, we're you're constantly thinking about what can I do to help? What can I do to take the skills that I have, the things that I'm passionate about, in the direction that I'm going to really impact and improve lives. And for Dayton, for a long time, the Dayton area struggled. The Dayton area got hit really hard in the early 90s and 2000s when the automotive industry kind of went belly up. The GM
Mm-hmm.
plant left.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of jobs went lost. From an economic perspective, it was struggling. I think that the data point going back to the 50s is Dayton currently has about 50% of the population that it had at its height in the 50s, which is startling when you think about the economic stability in the region and the cascading downstream impacts of that economic instability. So when we started thinking about the business and growing it and scaling it, we knew that we were going to need help. So we were going to need partners and organizations who shared our ideas and shared the mission and could prop us up, and whom we could help out as well. So we got really lucky that at the University of Dayton, there's this incredible program called the Institute for Applied Creativity for Transformation. You'll hear me call it IACT, which
That's
is the
good.
acronym. It's the full thing is a mouthful. So IACT is led by a really sharp guy named Brian LaDuca, and he and the university are on a mission to really change and improve lives through creative transdisciplinary thinking. So I got connected with him as an alumni, and essentially over a couple conversations, he and I got in a room and I said, hey, this is kind of what I do, and this is the tiger I got by a tail. I don't really know where it's going, but I want to make as big of an impact and improve as many lives as we can. And he said, hey, this is where I'm going, this is what I'm doing. And it just was a great fit right out the gate. So we started supporting the university, its students, that program, and we got introduced to the treatment facility over the opioid treatment facility 115 through the University of Dayton. It was a big, important priority for the area and the region, and everybody was making sure that it's getting off the ground and it's going to be as successful as possible. But it's a reflection of the struggle that Dayton has had for a while, particularly in regards to substance use and opioids. So
Mm-hmm.
115 is designed to be a cutting edge treatment and research facility for substance use and opioid disorders. Dayton is considered ground zero for the opioid epidemic. So from a city and a community perspective, that's an area that needs to be addressed, and it needs
Mm-hmm.
it needs support, and it needs not just money and resources thrown at it as a short-term fix, but this is something that's it's going to need to be addressed as a chronic condition and as a long-term condition. And if that's an area that Dayton needs support and help, we naturally gravitated to having conversations around how can I take what we do and make a positive impact and change and help to the trajectories of the individuals going through those struggles.
So the idea of the coursework is to occupy someone's mind. Is that sort of the foundation of where it all starts, is to occupy one mind to not think about maybe everything else in their life, right? To take a pause out of their day and create something, right? Have a purpose for so many hours a week or something like that. Just talk me through sort of I guess the side of it that you're trying to, not fix is a bad word, right? But you're trying to solve for, I guess, is what, right? Building of Legos can affect the mind. How? Like, how is this beneficial, I
Yeah.
guess?
If I take a step back, the idea that we originally had with 115 and through conversations right before COVID happened was to create a workforce development program where we would be one of
Yeah.
the community partners or agencies that individuals going through and exiting treatment could work with us, alongside us, and we could provide stable, gainful employment that supports their overall continuum of care coming out of 115. Obviously, COVID absolutely destroyed that conversation pretty quickly when people weren't leaving house, and economic impacts of that. We decided to start shifting into thinking about what sort of services, what sort of products, and that could we provide that would be beneficial and a solid, appropriate complement to the continuum of care that individuals receive at 115. So 115 is an inpatient and outpatient treatment facility. So they have a wide range of both immediate, short-term and long-term needs for the individuals going through their programs. We had been working on this idea of a Lego mindfulness class,
Hmm.
taking the idea that Lego is therapeutic, art is
Mm-hmm.
therapeutic,
Mm-hmm.
creating is therapeutic. So how can we potentially take that positive impact of essentially playing with materials, playing with Lego, and wed that and into the treatment program over at 115, not necessarily as the main benefit, but
Mm-hmm.
something that can occupy time, that something that can occupy idle hands, idle minds. The problem that we were helping 115 solve, and we're currently helping 115 solve, is what do individuals do in between their
Yes.
treatment?
Yep.
Right. So as they have downtime, as they're trying to fill the gaps, addiction is an incredibly powerful physiological and psychological beast, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you
Mm-hmm.
are as you're going through all the negative physiological effects of withdrawal, that's something that takes you psychologically, will keep you, mentally occupied and not necessarily in the most healthful and therapeutic direction. So what we were trying to do is, one, be an activity that individuals can do while on the off hours or in between
Mm-hmm.
their formal medical and psychological treatment at the facility. And again, grounded in the idea that, hey, we can provide one, if this is nothing else, it's something that's fun, something that will take a little bit of time. You can build, you are creating. Now, we also wanted to wed into that some skill development. So that's
Mm-hmm.
where the mindfulness activities come in. So there's a lot of very interesting treatment research coming out of the psychological literature that basically shows the powerful effects of behavioral activation, mindfulness, in addition to the traditional evidence-based treatments for addiction. So essentially the recipe in the table was kind of set to see, okay, we have an area, we have a population that of Dayton that obviously clearly is a priority to help, and then we have this product and we have this experience that we're pretty good at creating and
Mm-hmm.
developing. Like, let's wed that thing together. So that's kind of how the mindfulness classes came out. And if I were to explain or describe the Lego mindfulness classes we have, is that it's based off of a yoga class.
Mm.
So as you're coming
Okay.
in, you have a 10 to 15-minute warm up session where you're acclimating to the new environment. You're getting all your materials out. You're starting to go through mindfulness exercises like box breathing, visualization. We have a small stretching component to that as well. So like any other physical activity, building actually can start to wreck the hands and the back and the neck a little bit. So we wanted to model the class after a yoga class, so that you're coming in and you're preparing to do something, right? Just that act of preparing
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
getting ready for something is an incredible life skill, right? Think about
Totally.
how often we jump
Absolutely.
from
Yep.
task to task without actually putting the energy into getting ready and to preparing yourself for success. So we wanted to model that. We wanted to instill that into our classes, where transitions from activity to activity, both into and out of the class, are really important. So after the mindfulness component, then there's about a 40-minute window where we're actually doing a guided build activity. So individuals are provided with a personalized building kit. There's about 200 to 250 individual elements, and we walk our through our class. We walk people through the build. Now, the biggest difference that we have between what we do and what other Lego classes do, and even a Lego experience, is as anybody is building or going through their class, they do not know what they're building. So
Okay.
it's a significant difference. It's a significant twist, because think about what that does and what that requires you to
Mm-hmm.
do mentally, right? It
Super
requires deep.
focused. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. It requires that engagement. It requires the focus. It requires the ability for you to again, forget everything that's
Yes.
going on, for you to forget how you might be feeling physiologically, to forget or to kind of deprioritize, the thoughts that you might be having, again, from addiction perspective. So that's a big shift for us. It's a very small twist, but it's one that
Mm-hmm.
we think is incredibly powerful. So as we're going through this active build process, we sprinkle in a number of different learning opportunities. So here we're talking about things like cooperation, critical thinking, problem solving, as well as just some of those opportunities to learn more about Lego, to hyper focus into Lego colors, Lego terminology, build techniques. The idea again is to have people engage with our activity, have fun, build something, create something, learn a little bit, and over time, really ingrain that sense of completion, mastery, and confidence that you can do something, you can create something, you are building something. So as much as I hate to say it's almost a metaphor for treatment, it's a metaphor for treatment.
Yeah. And I want to kind of highlight a little bit of sort of what they are building. Very hard to do. Does it take a lot of like time and energy and practice? Because I think that there's so the potential of so many different ways for a person to like create something out of Legos is a lot like painting, right? Like you could give 10 people a canvas and they're going to and tell them to paint something and it's going to look quite different on those 10 canvases, right? So
Yeah.
the ability to do all kind of crazy things with Legos is fun and interesting. He gives an idea of what they're doing, but also what the company in general produces, right? And
Hmm.
if they were to come out this workforce development type training out of this into a job, that's the stuff they would be creating, right?
Yeah, so let's talk about the designs and the build activity that our participants will be building. So we provide a custom experience and a custom kit of 200 to 230 Lego elements, and every session, our students, our participants are using that kit to build something new. So we've actually
Hmm.
created a system where you're using the same materials over and over again to create new designs. So we work with a number of very talented designers, actually globally and internationally, who've helped us kind of create this program and this mindset of how can we provide a certain number of bricks that you can build a large number of designs off of.
Mm-hmm.
That allows us to,
Mm-hmm.
one, again, if you think about instilling skills, one of the most important things for us is after our clients or our students or our builders finish the build, it actually part of the class is breaking that set back down to get to prepare yourself for the next class and the next build.
Mm-hmm.
That's that in its own right, we think is very therapeutic as well. So thinking about, hey, I built this, I have the confidence and mastery in creating this, but now, hey, I'm comfortable, I'm okay. It might be a little anxiety producing to break this down, but I know that I'm going to be able to make something else during the next class, or the next participant's going to be able to use this kit. So the designs that students and participants are building, it really varies based off the kit that we provide them. Right now, we're operating and we're doing a lot of things that are creature or animal based. So like
Mm-hmm.
dinosaurs, sharks, chickens. It's just a little bit of everything that we can creatively package within this Lego building kit that we are currently using. Now, you touched on something really interesting, though, is one of the longer term goals that we have as a social enterprise is we absolutely love the idea of not only providing this therapeutic aspect and element into treatment programs, but also then to be an avenue for individuals coming out of the program to either work with, engage with us, whether that's on a part-time, full-time basis, to do a variety of potential employment opportunities. So whether that's, we love the idea of trying to wed and match individuals' strengths with, needs within the organization. So if somebody has a really high interest and passion and proclivity to designing sets, perfect, let's get them that experience. If somebody is really interested in finding and creating new partnerships in the community, excellent, we can shape and design a workforce or a program or a pathway for that as well. So what we hope to do as an organization, we hope to be flexible to be able to best wed the strengths and skill sets of the individuals coming out of treatment to come work with us and find the right opportunity for them to come in and have a good, positive success experience
Right.
within the workforce with us. Because again, that transition is delicate. It's difficult. It has to be one of the biggest stressors that individuals have coming out of a significant life event, like essentially going to rehab, coming out and reintegrating back into the workforce, reintegrating socially back into a friend or family network.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Those are challenging times. So what we hope to do is not have a very one-to-one plug and play, you're going to come out, you're going to do this, but we hope to provide a scaffolded experience where we can help support the transition, support the treatment, support the care that those individuals are receiving to help really put them on the pathway, a continued pathway of success.
Talk about the nonprofit fundraising side of things, because this is also interesting too.
again, going back to our business's mission, we try to improve lives with Lego. And so we love the idea of using our products, our sets, our experiences with our partners in the community to help raise funds, raise awareness, or help achieve the goals that they have and they've been set forward for them. Coming out into COVID around April or May, our business had to change significantly, and we started looking for ways not only to put out new products but also to help the individuals in the community that were our biggest advocates, right? At the University Dayton area was disproportionately hit with the COVID epidemic, particularly from an economic standpoint. So, a lot of our colleagues, our peers, our friends, our family were either being furloughed or laid off. So our initial reaction was, how can we help, right? How can we put something out that people are going to, one, smile at, love to build, really
Right.
identify with from a set perspective, but also how can we use that as being a force for good? So the first set that we put out was the Dayton Skyline set. So
Love it.
it's about I can't remember how many exact pieces it is. But it's like 350 parts. And it's, again, if you're going to start anywhere, start from your hometown, start with the areas that you identify
So
with
cool.
the people that you care with and love. So putting that set together, we went out and we reached out to the University of Dayton, the Dayton Art Institute, the Stratacache Tower is also, I'll always know it as the Kettering Tower, Dayton Arcade, the Carolyn Bell Tower, and then an art installation about the Dayton flyover and the history of flight. So I as a creator or as a designer thought of how do I personally identify with the city? How can I create a set that people will build and say, okay, that's where I went to school. That's where I loved,
Hmm.
that's where my friend got married. That's where I started my first job. And that's the personal connection and the products that we create. Now, the giving component to that is we said, okay, we can create a great product. Who can we help and how can we help them? So we did two things. First of all, we donated right off the bat, 10% of every sale goes to the University of Dayton and the IACT program that we support, right?
Interesting.
So we thought, okay, financially, we can carve out a significant portion of the profits and just steer them directly into the organization that needs our help and assistance right now. Second is we were selling these both online and through some of the local retailers on a consignment basis. So we knew that our retail partners, again, many small businesses in the area were shut down, closing doors. At that time, there was no PPP loans, right? So people were really trying to struggle and quickly adapt to the economic downturn. So we said, okay, not only are we going to create this and not only are we going to sell this, but we're going to hand it over to some of our local retail partners on a consignment basis so that they don't have to sell it. They don't have to have the upfront costs in terms of purchasing stock and inventory. And hopefully that gives them two things. One, a neat product and a neat cause to attract potential customers, and then two, the financial ability to help us move the product and raise funds that's also financially attractive for that retail partnership as well. So we do a lot of our business right now in terms of working with I think we have 10 or 11 retailers now in the greater Dayton, Columbus, Cincinnati area on a consignment basis where the terms are here's our product, put it out on the shelves. If you can sell it, great. If it doesn't move, which hasn't happened so far, we'll come out and pick it up. But that's just, again, our way of finding that win-win scenario of how can we as an organization put a good product out, make a little bit of money. How can we support the individuals and communities in which we're nested? And then how can we also support our retail partners? And that dance has been challenging, right? It's a very non-traditional model for retailers, right? And
Totally.
every retail organization that we partner with, a lot of our advocates, everybody is simultaneously trying to navigate COVID and the changes and what to expect. So if you put all that together, it's a perfect recipe for both frustration and confusion, but it's also an excellent opportunity to redefine how these business partnerships and actually work and what and how can we move away from models that worked before COVID and how can we move into a more economical, socially viable business model that supports everybody at the same time. So I love the ability to go out and talk to retailers and kind of start conversations, from the ground up of saying, what do you need to have happen?
Hmm.
What works for you? And that's really, we take a lot of pride in that from a business perspective and being mindful and trying to find the wins for us, our retailers and our customers.
So we mentioned the word Lego a lot, right? And I think it's interesting, I think, to go into the idea that these are actual Legos. correct? Like they are the Legos we think they are. Talk a little bit about that process of going with that. How do you get around sort of the quote unquote IP? And I think it's kind of really cool that Lego allows other companies to kind of build on top of their brand, right? Almost as like, the NBA officially licensed sort of things, or like, so is that what it is? They kind of they like have an open source sort of license to create certain things. Tell us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, so we only use Lego brick, and that's kind of the first and final end all be all. And that's a very purposeful decision that we made in order, to think about what sort of materials do we use in creating our products and experiences. Again, it was one of those situations where if we wanted to be much more financially viable, we would go to an off-brand or a knockoff product. For us, really, it wasn't even a question about which materials or which brand that we were going to use, because first of all, Lego is simply an incredible organization, right? They're the vanguard, they're the industry leader in the construction toy industry. They're one of the most beloved brands and products
Yeah.
globally and consistently, right, over the last 10 or 20 years. We really identify with and love the idea of using Lego, not only because of their brand awareness and their brand strength, but also because of their commitment to the future. Right, they are
Hmm.
significantly investing in overhauling their materials to move to more sustainable products. We respect their procurement process and the quality control in terms of what they're producing and how they're producing it. As an owner, as a founder, as a producer, we know that our products are going to be in the hands of individuals, kids, adults, adolescents. For me, yes, we could make more money if we were using a knockoff or a clone brand, but heaven forbid, a child, happened to swallow a Lego piece, which happens from time to time. I'm going to sleep a lot better because I know that Lego's done the due diligence and the quality control where the product that they're putting out is safe. I'm more than happy to model that brand and model that priority to quality control and safety. The other thing that Lego is really doing now is we share their mission to overall to improve lives, right? So Lego is sitting right now and really investing heavily at the intersection of learning and play. They stood up Lego Ventures in 2018 to invest in up and coming businesses to try to find out, how can we significantly improve lives through changing the way that kids learn, right? So Lego Ventures is one avenue that they're going at and really trying to change the dynamic of the next 10, 20, 50, 100 years about how kids and adolescents and adults learn. And we love that idea, and we really try to model ourselves after that initiative. The other thing is, just simply, the Lego education program. I think everybody understands that Lego puts out a high number of quality products and now experiences with the Lego Land and a lot of the discovery centers. But Lego is also a worldwide global leader of putting out quality material and that support the educators of the world. So Lego Education recently put out just a host of materials to help teachers integrate and embed Lego activities, programs, and curriculum into their classroom. And we just absolutely we believe in the ability of Lego to change lives and Lego to be a vehicle and a material to help unlock that access. That said, we clearly operate in this very vague space of technically being a business that uses Lego to make the world better, but we also do everything that we can to adhere to the Lego policies and procedures to do that in the right way, to respect and protect IP. So Lego actually puts out a fair play policy and guidelines, which is the legalese term of here's what to do, here's how to say things,
Sure.
here are the disclaimers that you are required to say. And so we kind of treat that as gospel. We try to do everything that we can to tick the boxes and to talk about Lego and to use the terms and terminologies and the brands and the trademarks in accordance to Lego's own policy. It's our goal to really operate in as good faith as possible to that fair play policy, because again, we share the prioritization, we share the mission to create high quality products that are going to change lives.
Pretty interesting, man. I love the idea of how did you even think about using Legos? Did you use Legos growing up as a kid? Like, what was even like? How did you even know that you could use like a fair sort of use Legos to start like and create a company, right? Like, what did you have people growing up that use Legos, and then growing up you still used them and started building? And then you were just like, hey, we could use this for like in a really cool way, and their fair practices allow us to kind of build off what they built for. for so many decades now.
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. I've always been a Lego nerd. I can remember some of the first gifts that I received as a kid. And again, I'm an '80s kid, by the way. So when you're thinking about early Nintendo, early Lego, the Space Police, I remember the train sets and everything. And my earliest fondest memories are staying home as a kid. If I was sick, you turn the TV on and watch Bob Barker on The Price is Right, and you get your Lego out, and it made you feel better. That's what I remember as my Lego experience as a kid. That's always stuck with me. Now the business side shifted, or the transition. There's kind of this really common experience within the Lego community called your dark ages. So essentially, as you play with Lego as a kid, going up into adolescence, and then around 16, 17, 18, you generally stop playing with it. So we call that your dark ages, and then you can find the brand, you can find the enjoyment a little bit later on in life, when you're not in college or if you're not working. I found the brand again when my wife got me a Millennium Falcon set, I think in 2012. And it was one of those things where I was working full time in analytics, and it was a very intensive client facing role. So I would come home after work and sit down and build, and have a glass of wine or have a scotch and just kind of relax and decompress. And that's again
Yeah.
I would love to tell you, like, I had this little aha moment where I was like, oh, Lego can be therapeutic. It was more of like just my own personal journey going in. Now the transition into a business perspective happened in 2013 when my wife and I were living in London, and we were, I was high pressure job. I was flying around, traveling around a lot. And so whenever I was home, I was building a little bit, and my wife and I were over there as expats, and we had a really nice flat in London, and this high ceilings overlooking a park. And it was only supposed to be a year expat assignment. And my wife kind of looked at me and she goes, "Hey, why don't we buy a painting, or why don't we buy some art? We'll put it up on the wall, and then we'll take it home and we move back to the US, and we'll always remember our London adventure or European adventure." And I was like, in the back of my mind, I'm going, "Oh, do I really want to spend what I think a
Yeah.
painting in London
Right.
is going to
Right.
cost?" I'll just make something, I'll physically make something, and we'll remember that. And I was building a lot with Lego at the time. So I built a mosaic, and it was definitely not what she was expecting. It was like a 3-panel Mike Tyson's Punch Out with Little Mac and Mike Tyson mosaic, and I took it down to the High Street Art Gallery and had it professionally framed, and I loved it. It was the least efficient, most expensive mosaic I built, because I built it by hand, and I probably bought 5 times the pieces that I needed. But I loved the experience of sitting down and creating it, and feeling like I was
Yeah.
just able to focus in and just disconnect from the stress of the world for a little bit.
And you
So
created a memory. That's awesome.
and I exactly created a memory, and I also got the bug, right. So after I built
Yeah.
my first one, I immediately built a larger mosaic of a Mondrian-esque map of the world, and this thing's like 45 inches by 60 inches. I mean, it's an absolute beast. And again, took it down to the High Street, to the art gallery down the road, and had them frame it. And every time I started getting this I was the American Lego guy, walking into the gallery. And so every time I'd come in, I'd talk to the owner a little bit. And then the third piece that we built, third mosaic that we made, was of Afghan eyes. So there's this really iconic National Geographic cover of an Afghani girl, and her eyes are green, they're piercing. And I decided to make that one, and that's the one that my wife was finally happy and expecting, and looking forward to bringing back to the flat and putting up, in the bedroom. So I build it, take it down to the High Street, and walk in with it. And the gallery owner kind of pulls me aside and he goes, "Hey, Adam," he goes, "have you ever thought about selling, what
Hmm.
your mosaics?"
Yeah.
And I kind of looked at him and laughed a little bit. I'm like, "Look, man, I'm this data geek. Like, this is just my Lego nerd stuff. Like we're in the art capital of the world, and I am a data analytics guy. Like this is not my wheelhouse." He goes, "No, I think that there's going to be there might be an appetite for it." So it was Friday afternoon. He goes, I'll frame it. I'll put it up in the front of the gallery, in the gallery window. And, over the weekend, we'll see what sort of
Yeah.
appetite we get and what sort of interest we get." And I patted the guy in the back. I was like, "Ben, I'll be back on Monday to pick this thing up." Right. I was like, "There's no way that this is going to move." So Saturday, I get a call at 11 o'clock in the morning, and the gallery owner goes, "I've already sold the window. I've already sold the one in the window, and I've sold another one. How quickly can you make 10?" In
Like,
terms of
uh-oh.
traction, yeah, in terms of traction and like immediate like market fit, right? right? I'm sitting here going, okay, we got something. Like the price point was okay, the margins were okay. Like this is something that I'm enjoying doing, and I'm also a lifelong like learner. Like I love the idea of learning different industries, learning different businesses and brands. So getting into and understanding how the art world works was cool. But we quickly and we quickly made and sold through an edition of I think 15 or 20 of that, which was great. Like I paid off my student loans. I brought my mom and my sister over for a
Awesome.
week-long vacation in Cyprus, and that kind of that set us on the course of the idea that there might be a viable business model here. So we were doing that mostly as a side hustle in the UK. We were doing, custom commissions. So I did a lot of portraits. We had some art pieces on, smaller galleries around London. We did a couple art shows in Battersea. We did a wedding, which was really fun, where people would come in and everybody they found out where
That's
their table
awesome.
settings were. And then they built the mosaic at the wedding, and the picture was of the bride and the groom. So it was just constantly kind of trying new things and, figuring out what works and what doesn't work. And then so we did that from about 2013 to 2018. Obviously, Brexit happens, and that's one of the biggest pulls that brought us back to the US. And at the same time, we landed a corporate contract to build for another Lego artist. And that was, again, another one of those data points for us to say, okay, there might be a career or a viable business opportunity if you take what we can do from a personalized Lego perspective and also build for other people. And so that entrepreneurship mindset of going, can we sustain ourselves off
Right.
of this was there, but it wasn't until we came back. So we knew we had something. It wasn't until we came back and got integrated at UD and started working with IACT where we really sat down and said, okay, we have something, but how do we want to be a business?
Hmm.
How do we
Hmm.
want to impact lives? And that's really where the push and the prioritization around being a social enterprise and being a business for good came about. So as you can probably tell, like that story from our first mosaic to what we're doing now,
Yeah.
we've been all over the place, but the common theme is, man, put a great product out, make people smile, and try to improve as many lives as you can. The how we're going to do that's going to change from day to day, but
Yeah.
at the heart of what we do, that's our mission.
Thank you so much, Adam. This was really, really interesting. It was really, really cool. How could people get in touch with you? Just email, the website, social, anything like that that you wanna reference in case somebody wants to reach out and ask some more questions that I wasn't able to get to.
You can either contact us through the website or social media. Everything we do is at Brixilated. We encourage a lot of people coming in and just reaching out to us. That's most of where the business comes from. That's most of where the ideas come from.
Hmm.
And honestly, that's how we like to operate. We love people
Yeah.
coming to us and saying, "Hey, this is what we're passionate about. How can we potentially work together?" And now all of a sudden, you're in this open, creative, idea generating space that doesn't necessarily exist in the corporate world, right? So that idea immediately at the onset of let's co-create together, let's find something together, let's build something together, and hopefully impact as many lives as possible. That's fun for me. That's a great way to spend your day. That's a great way to spend your life.
Amazing, my man. Well, thank you so much. Have a great rest of this year, and hopefully the next few years and decades here is the best it can be, my man. And I hope the program goes well. I think we'll catch up when the program kind of goes through some phases, and maybe you could see some overall results, and maybe give us some feedback on what worked and what didn't, and maybe we could hear some success stories of people that you hired through the program, and also good some other good things that came from it. So really